All right, before we get into it, a word from our sponsor. That's right. Our sponsor is that doe-eyed bastard right there. That metaphorically blind son of a bitch who has no idea about the video he'll be making after 15 years of being exposed to the cosplay scene, which is this video. Are you done, Sarah? You want to go lay down? Oh, okay. All right, close enough. I'll just touch it for a little bit. So everyone has a different story on how they got introduced to a specific topic or a hobby or whatever the case may be. And it's no exception that I used to be a cosplayer before I officially retired from Power Morphicon. But some people have been wondering how I got started with cosplay and what got me interested in it. And I know in my case, even with the title of this video, it's gonna be an extremely hard pill to swallow. But my introduction to cosplay was from a former friend that I used to support and gave 110% to after she did the same thing to me many, many moons ago, amongst other people. She got me into it. Let's just say prior to her teenage pregnancy, she was a much different person back then versus when that actually happened, as well as for future years preceding that, but we'll get more into that later on. But this was something I wasn't really hoping to make in this case, because it all started when Emmy and I used to go to the same middle school together, and she was also into Sonic and anime as much as I was for the latter, and even was such a Naruto nerd back in the day. And I was pretty much on a hiatus with Sonic in general because of my displeasurement from Shadow the Hedgehog from 2005. Despite my love for the character, it's the one game that kind of made me draw away from Sonic for a little bit until she came into my life. And so we started to chat with each other and just geek out over certain shows or anime, and even just shared each other's content, where she made a lot of AMVs and occasional covers, not like the covers that she does now, but just a like teenage anime kind of music editing or video editing, excuse me. Whereas I did some AMVs as well, and I also made some Transformers stop motion videos on top of that. And it just felt very welcoming to see someone actually not only be so down to earth, but also be very supportive as well and give advice. And even when you were feeling down about something, she would exchange that level of sympathy back and even be there to metaphorically hold your shoulder or whatever. It actually wasn't until after middle school ended for both of us, where we unfortunately went our separate ways, where we went to different high schools, and she was facing her own trauma that I didn't even know about until many decades later, when things started to become more public about her. And I didn't even know about it, but I was facing my own trauma regarding bullying and other stuff that I'll get to later on as well. But it actually wasn't until I saw on her wall that she was attending an anime con that was local called OhioCon, which I've already shared my displeasurement with the con, especially with its current direction on TikTok. But back in the day, that was the convention that not only got me into con going in general, but also got me started with cosplay in general, because she was attending cons before me, and it was a long time since I last saw her in person, and I wanted to go see her and just chat with her and have fun. And it was just really nice to have that little reunion. when that happened. But then all of a sudden she just started having her teenage pregnancy story that's already public, you know, her being on Dr. Phil and Mom Before Prom, and even her sharing the instances of her being SA'd, and also all the PTSD that she succumbs to, or that was assigned to her when that happened, between everything that happened between childhood and also becoming a teen mom in this case, and everything else. And I even was checking on her via DMs, just checking to see if she's A-okay. But even if we were both minors, and even if she had to take care of this one thing, I had to respect as much of her privacy as much as possible. And it actually wasn't until when, after that happened, she decided to ghost me. And then about a couple hours later, I asked if everything was A-okay, but she just didn't respond. I was really hoping that I would be able to be of some assistance to help out with what she was facing. Even though we were teenagers back then and she had to focus on parenting in general, it was really disheartening to see her essentially betray me. It actually wasn't until about half a decade later when I actually discovered her vocal covers that I all of a sudden wanted to just try and reconnect with her and just try to become friends again at one point. Because back then she owed so much to everyone, and I wanted to give that same level of 110% back to her as much as possible, even if it was just for moral support and just talking to check in, see if she's okay, and if she was feeling down, that I would reach out to her and give her a pep talk if I could. But she just wasn't very vocal about it in that case either. Even though I was a part of her Discord server and I was able to help her out with her Team Chaotix cover, it was fun just trying to help her out in that regard as well. But it just became an instance, thinking back at it now, and it just makes me realize, with how things are now, given how she essentially gaslit Saber Spark, which, if you already know the details about that, you already know. But with everything that went down, it makes me question regarding being in the cosplay scene, even after retiring cosplay, that I'm not sure if it's either something that I'm glad going to cons in general actually made an impact on my life, or if it just became an instance where it made me realize what's the point of all this if I've networked with a bad egg that I didn't even know was a bad egg. And it even makes you raise even more eyebrows, not only given how much controversies that she has succumbed to and started as well, but for essentially faking an SA allegation in front of one of the most popular YouTubers in regards to the genre of animation. I just really don't know what to think about all this. Because even before all of this came out, for about the past month or so, I used to be very welcoming and very caring for this person that I looked up to myself. And even after her saying that, when one time, personal story, I'll make it brief. One of my many instances of being birthed with PTSD was also being succumbed to bullying and being a victim of SA as well. And regarding the former, there was a Bad News Bears bully that I was going to the bathroom and he was at the urinal and I was on the pot with the door locked. And even though Yo Mama jokes are very dated and offensive as well, given how we were teenagers, I accidentally slipped a Yo Mama reference and he literally kicked the door saying the words, "I'll fuck you up." And that scared me shitless that he went in with that much force and aggression towards me. And when I talked to my mother about it, obviously she was furious about it. And when I texted Emmy about it, she even said, and I wish I had the receipt, and I wish I did what Saberspark did and kept my old phone and showcased the text history and everything. She said that she would literally kill that guy as a means to defend me because he was that much of a Bad News Bears bully. And nobody in the school liked him, unfortunately. I know that was then, and how we act and function as adults now are vastly different compared to how we did back then. But just became one of those many instances where I was thankful for Emmy for just being there, and I just want to give as much of that 110% back, like I just said, between not only supporting her, but also sending her stuff, between me making an infinite mask for her that she even made public as well, and the cover for the Team Chaotix theme, like I mentioned, from Sonic Heroes. And even just like as a surprise that I decided to go to Sonic and Sega Fan Jam when she was a guest there, because I really don't mean to sound obsessive in this case, but I really wanted to see her at least one more time. And honestly, it felt very welcoming just after I got Ryan Drummond's autograph and I went to see her afterwards. It seemed everything was going a-okay and that we were friends again, and that it made me feel so happy inside just having that reunion again. Obviously, when I got her autograph and a selfie with her, I didn't take up too much time when I was in line, but I was like, hey, a long time no see, and she was happy to see me as well. And I didn't want to take up as much time, and I said to her, I don't want to take as much of your time, but it was great seeing you, and I hope you do a great job with everything else going forward. And she said to me that after the autograph session died down, that I'm more than welcome to join her at her booth, and we could just talk and have a discussion. And with one of her booth handlers that she had at the time, and her and me just sitting down talking to each other, as well as the other guests that were there as well. It was just really nice and welcoming in that regard. Even if I was doing my best to help her out as much as I can, it just made me sit down and realize, what's the point of all this if a majority of the time she decided to ghost me? And this isn't the case of me trying to downplay her side effects of all of her mental illnesses, between being OCD and PTSD and CPTSD and everything else. Even after all the receipts that Saberspark showed, after coming forward about his side and Emmy's side and having all these interviews all together, and hearing what Saberspark had to say about their connections and Emmy's connections with Saberspark as well, and getting interviewed by three people. I'm not necessarily defending one person over the other in this case, but in this kind of context in particular, if I were to choose at least one side in particular, I think Saberspark would definitely be the person to go for, because not only was he detail oriented in his own personal interview that was about like an hour and a half long, he also showed the receipts from an old phone, which is very surprising that he was able to do, because on one hand, it's normal for people to just make sensational videos of just being like me using old tech for 1 week. But in this case, I was very shocked to see him actually go out of his way to grab all of his old equipment and even buy some old equipment to get said receipts up and running for further proof. And seeing that after I wished Emmy the best of her endeavors last year, it just makes me realize not only had I wished someone would have spoken to me about it earlier on in my cosplay life, where they were like, hey, that Emmy person you networked with, don't trust her because she's a bad egg in this case. That actually wasn't the case until Lizzie came into my life before I turned against her as well. And that's also from the receipts Emmy showed, and even showcasing how much of a bad egg Lizzie was as well. But the whole, I really don't mean to be like Penguin Zero and just rip off what he says in his content, but essentially all the lore surrounding Emmy and her victims, and Saberspark included as one of her said victims, it's just way too convoluted to follow. And I'm not necessarily what you call a Saberspark stan per se. I mean, I've watched some of his content. I like some of it, but not like up to the point where I was subscribed to him and that I would buy merch from him and be a patron of his and so on and so forth. I never did any of that. But I did for the one person that I looked up to in middle school that I wanted to help out as much as possible. And even after all the other controversies that came out before and afterwards regarding all these skeletons Emmy had in her closet, it just makes me wonder, why isn't she being thorough about this? Why did I even take the bait when it comes to just networking with her in general? Why would I even befriend her in the first place? And I've also shared on a handful of the Discord servers that I'm in that some of my friends and some mutuals are in, briefly talking about the predicament I'm facing. And they were sharing sympathy for me, and I contemplated to make this video, but some people were like, no, just wait to process everything. But even after processing everything, and even with the incident that I succumbed to, where Emmy essentially let me down again, and I don't mean to make all of this for selfish intentions. I don't mean that by any stretch of the imagination, but it still proves a point. The incident where it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me was around the time when Emmy was helping out with the IHOP Sonic collaboration. She was asking people in her Discord server to be a part of the Discord meetup in the Ohio area. She was originally looking for 3 people to come to the event, and obviously I wasn't expecting any freebies given my then connection with Emmy as a person. I mean, I wasn't expecting any freebies nor even any juicy deals from like Sega or Nintendo or any voice acting studio from like Canada or Cali or wherever else. I wasn't expecting any of those because I'm pretty sure that when it comes to being a voice actor or a public figure or whatever, there are some NDAs that those people have to follow, and obviously I respect that. And there are even some things people have to keep hush hush about, so that's understandable. I put in my submission, and I wasn't selected to be one of the 3 people, and I was like, okay, no worries. And so it actually wasn't until the day of when the meeting happened, or when the meetup happened, that she announces, and I'm paraphrasing, that she's looking for more people to potentially come to this event and that we should DM a mod. And so I DM one of her quote unquote buddies that is an entitled Gen Z tourist named Coop. I message him just being like, hey, is it okay if I come to this event? Paraphrasing. Essentially, he wrote back saying, yeah, well, I'll get back to you. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm just driving around town, just browsing at various shops to kill some time. And I don't hear anything, not from Coop, not from Emmy, not from AJ, not from anyone else. I don't hear a peep from anybody for several hours. So at first I was like, okay, something must be wrong. And so the day after, or a couple hours after, before midnight, I go back to Coop in a DM. I just said, hey, I haven't heard anything back from you. I essentially took it as a no-no since there wasn't a response back then. And his only response to that was that things were really busy and that he was sorry. I talked to one of my friends about it and was pretty salty that I was ghosted in this case. And I was given the suggestion to contact Emmy about it and wait about a week for a response from her. And so I took my friend's word of advice, and then I DM Emmy asking, hey, is everything okay? As usual, when it comes to me just trying to network with Emmy and be civil about it, she just ghosted me as well in that case. And so I talked to my therapist about it, and I also talked to one of my sisters about it. And my therapist was pretty disheartened by the results of how I was treated in this case of being ghosted. And it was the hardest thing for me to do would be to let that connection go from someone that I looked up to as a person. It actually wasn't until about a month or so later, maybe 2 months, I can't remember, but you'll see the screenshots here. But it actually wasn't until she shared on her Twitter before I left the Swatstakar website myself, where she was asking people, what do you want to say to me, or how would you describe me in one word? And given my treatment of being ghosted and everything else, and even just having her play mind tricks with me, I just said that she was entitled, and she said something on the lines of just being like, for someone that I've known for a very long time, it's very disheartening to see you doing something childish and being entitled and everything else. Even I called her out for just trying to be there for her like she was for me. And I essentially called her selfish for what she was doing. Because even though I won't lie by saying that I made mistakes as well, and I own up to said mistakes when I can, this is not owning up to anything in this case. Hey everyone, Jake of the future here, and sorry that I'm sweating, I just got back from a walk, but I just want to reiterate in this case that my issue wasn't the fact that I wasn't selected to be a part of the guest roster, or one of the few people selected in this case. My main issue was the fact that I did exactly what was written on the tin in this case for the Discord server, and made some communication, and the fact that I was ghosted as a result, and the fact that she decided to invalidate my voice later on, just by saying, hey, it would have been great for you to be here, but I decided to choose people that respect me. That shit cut me like a knife at that moment, and it's because of her choice of words from that case that I've lost 100% of respect towards Emmy as a person from things that I have faced myself. I'm also aware that in comparison to all the other events going on in the world right now, this is a nothing burger in comparison. But with everything that she's done recently, or what's been revealed recently, this is career ending. But anyway, back to the video. And even when talking to one of my sisters about it, that she said something that I never even thought of myself, would be that she was essentially playing the nice card, where they essentially put up their gee golly wilker facade, I guess you could call it. But it's just like underneath the mask, they're just terrible people, or that they're just very annoyed that one person's in their presence, even if they're not bothering that other person. Even after talking to some of the people that I share connections with, it really makes me wonder, why did I even network with this person in the first place? I'm just really tired of everything convention related. Not just for what I've already shared regarding Matsuri-kan, which I still hold to, but just anything convention related in general. Because with her faking SA allegations, which is essentially as bad as like how Boogie faked cancer, that's already a red flag in and of itself. And I know some people are probably going to be asking, how is this going to impact me in regards to cosplay or Sonic or Congoing in general? Well, in regards to Sonic, nothing really, since Sonic was more of a self-discovery for me back in the Sega Dreamcast days with Sonic Adventure. But in regards to Congoing and cosplay, I might go to conventions at least, but when it comes to cosplay in general, even if it's just suiting up something light, like my Charluigi cosplay, for example, or one of my many Kamen Rider cosplays, I don't feel comfortable dressing up in that regard, because I already feel disdained by all the skeletons that have come out about Emmy. And even after just reading about it yesterday, as I'm recording this video, June 25th, it actually wasn't until after I was listening to the audio for one of the videos of Saberspark showing the receipts from his old phone, where people were like, yeah, Emmy lied about everything and she gaslit everyone, where I was sick to my stomach, up to the point where I just needed to take a break from driving and just sit down and get some fresh air, even if it's blazing hot outside. It just makes me feel so unclean and betrayed and hurt. On one hand, if there's something Congoing has done for me, it's at least made me gain these connections that I have, even if some of the connections I'm no longer friends with because of my big mouth or things that they themselves have started. But regardless of all that, it's definitely been a game changer for me in regards to self-discovery and even just going to Japan and everything else. I'm not going to sweep all this under the rug. And regarding my cosplay pics, they'll still be up for historical purposes. But I don't want to create another cosplay nor even just make any plans of another cosplay. Because I know cosplay is a fun hobby and you're allowed to express yourself however you want, unless if you're in Japan where you're not supposed to act in character. I really don't feel comfortable suiting up nor even making commissions or anything else. But with all the videos that I've watched regarding Emmy side and Saberspark's side, I was just kind of in between and I wasn't sure who to decide on the most. But in this case, even though this isn't the first public figure that I've tuned into, that I also used to be friends with, that I also respected as a content creator. There were also other content creators that I used to like as well that are unfortunately pieces of shit themselves, like Doug Walker, Boogie2988, The Completionist, plenty of other internet celebrities or public figures you can think of, or groups or whatever. But those three are just to name a few. But one thing that really annoys me the most is when a controversy about these public figures come out, instead of owning up to it and be like, hey, we heard your voice, we're sorry we fucked up. No, they just want to take the blame on others and play the victim in this case. And that's what Emmy is doing here. And not only is she not making anything public about this, or at least regarding Saberspark's receipts anyway that he had on his phone, she's ignoring the issues and blocking people left and right and just trying to rely on damage control every chance she gets. So yeah, she essentially is like Ohio Khan, Matsuri Khan, and essentially Colossal Khan as well. I'm sorry, I'm just really trying to process all of this, and I already just feel so happy about all these things. And I'm also aware that, and I was also talking to my mother about this, where even though she never came across a similar circumstance that I did regarding public figures, but just friendships in general, she did say something along the lines of that person's actions don't define who you are, and I agreed with her in that case. And to be quite honest, with how Emmy hid everything and didn't reveal all this and just wanted to do this Jekyll and Hyde shit, thinking about it now, it's already shown how dishonest she has been, not just to me, but to other people as well. And even in her 3.5 hour ish interview that she had with three other people in general, the interview itself, I thought it was 60-40. The only thing that I found kind of iffy, again, paraphrasing even what she said in the interview, not word for word, but she did say something along the lines of, I would like to say public, but I would like to remain anonymous. Like, that's like the only one thing that I could think of that made me raise an eyebrow. Because you want to keep producing content, but you also don't want to admit the fact that you've screwed up on so many occasions, and yet you're still getting butthurt over all these things going your way, or not going your way, and you don't want to own up to everything. I'm sorry, that is the lamest and most selfish thing you could ever hear a public figure share. And it pisses me off because now I look at my Optimus Prime cosplay from 2010 and all the other cosplays afterwards that I've built as well, and I just get sad about everything. It's definitely one thing I'm gonna be mad about until I go to their grave. Not to sound suicidal or anything, but it's like the one regret in regards to networking with friends in general, whether in quotation marks or not. The fact is, when you actually get to look at the person behind the mask and see who they are as a person, it's just really alarming. So, Emmy, if you're watching this, and I know you are, the only thing that I really have to say outside of shame on you on everything, if I had a physical trophy, I would ship it to you, but this is what I would send you. And I also hope McDonald's is hiring. Oh, wait, I heard they are. So, yeah, you got options there. It's just gross, dude. But like I said earlier, uh, I'm not cosplaying anything anymore, even after retirement. I'll still attend cons at least and still keep the connections with my current friends that I have, even the ones that reached out to me as I reach out to them as well. Everything Sonic related is still staying, but it's just like I'm going to be more careful about who I choose to tune into content wise. And it's pretty normal in cases like this because even in cases where it's like, oh, hey, I've been supporting this person for a while, I'll definitely keep supporting them to the best I can. And then when all these huge ass controversies come out about said person, I'm just like, yeah, unsub, unfollow, leave server, so on and so forth. That's just my philosophy in this. And here's something that I've also learned too, not just for attending cons, but just for going out in the public doing anything. If one person is doing their damnness to defend themselves with their last dying breath, and they're not validating the other person's feelings or voice, and that they're using their mental health as a shield as well as their quote unquote victimization, and they're invalidating the other person or people that have succumbed to similar circumstances, like me, for example, they're not ethical. Don't trust them. Yeah, fuck Emmy Jones, metaphorically. And I also feel sorry about her daughter and her pupper Mochi because they don't deserve being treated by a monster like that. And it makes me worried about how they're going to react to everything. I mean, Sarah, she's already cozy right now, and she's being a good pupper. But yeah, I'm shutting the camera off now.